What we have now, we're going to say, enveloping your planet, is an energy field that has led to, we're going to say, the history of you beings. And that energy field now is we're going to call it a memory vortex, where the process of yourself becomes apparent. And by that I mean the consciousness within the individual entities are coming to a place of recognition of being part of a greater consciousness. Yet, within this concept of part of the greater consciousness, this is a struggle for the individuality of the self and the knowledge of who you are. Right now, your world, your name, is the knowledge of you. You know your name. You react to your name and the circumstances that you were involved with your name. It's a consciousness concept of sound in the vibratory frequency of no light, we'll say. Because you're beginning to develop into beings that can possess it continually, and you have it always. It's there as a who's going to call it a moment of knowing in the little one of you that came out of the birth canal. The reason I'm going to say it this way is that you're going through these processes, and by that I mean birth processes, because you're aware, at least in the precepts theory of it, reincarnation thing. You have the verbiage of it. Right now, you're going through the feeling process of that verbiage, and not just this lifetime. You're calling memory forces within you, and everyone's doing this, and this is why there's so much consternation going on your planet. You're calling memory forces of why, and what's the purpose, and what's the uniqueness, and how do we proceed because we know better. We've had doctrines and you've had rules as given. Treat one another as you wish to and be treated, and also to don't kill and this and that. But those lessons haven't been learned quite appropriately enough, let's say. And you've heard of concepts and of entities that are not fond of the human condition and have a jealousy, we're going to say, aspect toward it. Your beings are going through this consciousness process of bouncing from light to dark. Well, the light, you're going to find out, is the dark, and the dark is the light, and it's a symbol within the yin and yang. And you're in your processes of discernment, and the discernment is in inner discernment for the comfort of the self and the comfort of the what has been left out is the comfort of the organs in the body. Each organ came from the same original cell as you did. So the consciousness is the same. Yet the structure is different. And within the organs, we're going to call it, you would term it in your physical world, personality conflicts. Yet they're not personality conflicts. Each organ has a specific function and a duty to perform. And it does that duty. But the arrogance of the human condition does not consider the organs within the body. They consider the organs as something that's there to do something, and they don't care about it. As long as they have the sense of feeding self and breathing. You forgot that you're made up of multiple entities. Yourself. Just a moment, yeah. You have the concept that you're just a unique self. Well, actually, you're made up of many personalities. You're actually a multidimensional being. And in your sacred texts, there are the hints of the 144,000. They're not 144,000 beings. That's going to make this the concept of the ascension process. That's not what it meant. Each one has 144,000 spiritualized cells in the body. And you work with the multiple of 12 with this, and you would understand yourself in what you would term the astrological patternings. But it's it's not only a complicated scenario in the mathematical understanding, it's also a complicated scenario that you have to introduce the personalities within yourself to the other personalities within yourself. And this is where you get the arguments within the self. You have your left side of your brain that receives information from a particular direction. You have the right side of your brain that receives information from a particular direction. You have the center portion, which is the cleavage in the brain, that receives divine information straight, that has to be interpreted by the left and right side. And as it comes down into the system being you, the crown chakra, and the other 6 in the body for the enlightenment of the condition called you. So as you beings, trying to determine yourself, determine who you are, where you are, what you are, and the purpose of the breath you have for the function of the body, you're going through the multidimensional aspects of yourselves. Now, as you have societal structures, you have different countries, different languages, different cultures. They are not the same. They're different for a reason, for the interpretation of the spatial difference. Spatial difference, by that I mean, I always say spatial difference in your worlds is perceptions. You have a perception when you touch things, you have a reaction. Your sight is the major contributor to your being of awareness of self, having a unit that you must work with. You're involved with the, I'm going to say, the understanding of these wordings, the triplicity, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. That's you, in you. And the conditions with the structure has to do with the interpretation of the words, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That does not negate the mother or the daughter in the Holy Spirit. Those are just combinations. It's the same. You beings are humans. There's female conditions and there's male conditions. And you're born to the male condition for a reason, for the understanding of multidimensional personalities of yourself. You're born as a female for a reason, for the understanding of the multidimensional personalities of the self. And when that multidimensional personality understanding takes place within the system, you find the equality. This is why you're having to struggle so much with your the sexual orientation in your world now. With the men wanted to become women, and some of the women wanted to become men. There's an argument there against a divine force that allows you to have a process in the first place. And what you're going to find, what the world is finding out now, causes great confusion. You were born for a specific purpose, a specific reason, for the desire to, I'm going to say, experience your own process in the manifestations that come to you. How you did it, and what you didn't do, and how that didn't come about. And the space of peace, which requires the manifestation to come forth, has to be accomplished. When you go through your world, you're going to find that the thought is the manifestation. Yet the timeline, horizontally now, not vertically, the timeline to the completion of that manifestation is not in your reality at the present. It's not a horizontal thing, it's a vertical. So you have to arise to it as it, the manifestation desire, comes to you. You've got to be into the space to receive it. But everyone on your planet wants it now. Or they should have had it, and there's all this other verbiage. The verbiage is what's causing the confusion. It's causing the consternation within the self, because there's always the why and the how come and what of this and what of that, and it doesn't matter. The result is what is called the accomplishment of your ideal. And that's why as you go through your day and you accomplish tasks, at the end of your day there's a sense of having sent this accomplishment thing, done something. When you do that, the systems, I'm going to say, within you, the organs, we're talking primarily now with organs, and also the chakras, but the organs are more important because they are the ones that distribute the force through the chakras and receive the force from the chakras, so they have to be educated in a manner. You can talk to your liver, and it will tell you what you need to eat gently for itself. The pancreas, the lungs also know, yeah? The smoking, not a good idea, because it inhibits things. You have to learn to breathe through different orifices at times. All these systems are in you. You are a unit, unique. Yet within the uniqueness of the unit, you're with other units that are also experiencing their own uniqueness. The difficulty becomes the competition between my uniqueness is greater than your uniqueness, and it's not. It's the same. You can tell by your ability to, I'm going to use this word, the ability to be healthy. It's up to you. It's up to you. And you have to understand where the influence of discomfort comes from for the unhealthy feelings. You have to understand particularly the function of the bacteria that's in your stomach that processes, we're going to call it data, but it's not data, it's the food. The food has the data, and you're acknowledging the data when you go through the process of digestion. That's what happens. Yet you're not aware of that. You are becoming aware that it's appropriate to eat organic foods and foods that haven't been contaminated by sprays and this kind of thing. And also you're going to learn that you're going to have to be careful who touched your food while it was served to you, because there's an energy exchange even in the touch. And also, not to create a world of paranoia, but there's also an energy as beings look at your food. As in your restaurant, and they look down and there's a comment in them whether they like it or not, just by the look. That has an influence. But your sensitivity isn't there yet to understand the importance of tranquility when you're in the process of using foods for the continuity of your life. You have to have a tranquil atmosphere. You have to sort of eat your food and listen to it as it talks to you. And it's one of the reasons they have the symbolism of blessing the food. It's passing your hand over your food for clarity and clean, and then thankfulness for receiving the food. And then as you eat the food, it will tell you what it's going to do. And so too as you go into your store, because certain vegetables will call out to you. They will recognize that they can serve you and they can be of service, by going to you, but your consciousness isn't aware of those influences. Nature has a way of wanting to heal all things. That's what she does. And there's the other distractive process that you're not aware of, but it has to do with your thought. The fear consciousness develops, and then it attracts, and you try to fight it. And you try to fight it. But all of your news media now is just conglomerated with this, that, and the other, and you have not time to think of yourself. Because you're being fed all of this other thing and trying to interpret. The thing to do is to sit and look at trees. Breathe in understanding of tree. And even in what was called, particularly in the shamanic tradition, when the negative entities come in to be enlightened in things, many shamans will assist these entities and put them into a tree so they can experience what growth is and come out as released as oxygen. They have the experience of feeling. They're not like the human. No? They want to become human. So as they go into the tree, they understand this part of the evolution process. They come through the oxygen process, and then in the breath they are in the human. And in that they get the recognition of how what you call continuity of the extension and participation in life, in all things. In all things. And you humans, as you're walking, you're doing the same thing. You're not aware of it. You're aware of everyone else and the space and the buildings, and perhaps you maybe listen to the wind or feel the heat of the sun and understand the glow of the moon and who's really talking to you and how did you get here in the first place. And you wouldn't have done this if I had any choice. I really wouldn't have set it up like this. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. It's part of the acceptance of one, not knowing truly who you are and the understanding of your own power, and two, it's part of the knowledge that you know better. It's one way of learning what not to do in your steps toward this concept of eternity. You're all divine beings, you always will be. You always have the light. The light needs to come up now. It's going to come through the pores. It's going to go into the organs also to help for the healing of the organs. Beings are going to start having experiences within themselves. Right now, a lot of beings are being influenced by others' thoughts and the telepathic, I'm going to have to put it this way, monitoring and distribution of thought by your governments, because they're playing with the frequencies of the air. That you have your radio stations and you know what those frequencies are. That's always in the air. You just tune the radio to it. Well, the same thing occurs within you. You have to understand where your tuning is. What are you tuning into? And you're going to receive what you're tuning into. Thing to receive, tune into God first. Next is what you call your divine self, the high self, whatever phrase you want to put on it. It's the exceptional self, actually, that knows what it's doing here. And when you include that in your receivership, you'll find it comes down right through the nose on the left side of the left eye. And then you'll have another force that comes up to the right side of the nose on the left side of the right eye. And they uniquely join. Yeah? You'll have the solar plexus expand in a great understanding of knowing. And then your I'm going to call it, your peacock form comes up within you. The beauty of you. You beings call it the phoenix. It's in there in everyone. And that phoenix flies and burns the dross. And then you have, the cleaning of the body. You have the purification by the fire from within, not from fire from without. And that is there, available for everyone, the phoenix. And that's what's moving now in the pelvic area, in the bones of the human condition. It's moving up, and the lower backs are getting the pressures of it because they can't understand the release that's needed to go up, and there's a pressure to push down. You do need to push down at times when it becomes, I'm going to have to say it, too heavy for your shoulders. Because when you come up in a phoenix form, you're declaring yourself. And there are entities that are around that might not like that declaration because they've been the ones that have been influencing you all the time in a negative manner. But as you move into your phoenix form, they have to move, because the phoenix form is a bird of fire, and it clears everything in its path. And then you open the base of the heart chakra opens, and then there becomes this union with your, I'm going to have to call it your divine family, as a knowing. It's moving into this auric energy field of transformation, knowledge, and awareness, and the understanding of what love is within your body and your 144,000 cells in there, the spiritualized portion of your being, of those 144,000 cells. And each month they get activated. There's a chance for the activation to go further and further as you go through the astrological cycles. And as you go through these astrological cycles, not just your birth sign, but the 12 of them, and you get the accumulation of knowledge of yourself, you stay vertical and thankful, you can feel the energy coming around you, begin to understand this is more than what's written in words. It's a process of self-understanding and claiming its ability and right to be able to live and have a breath without the influence of disturbance from another. And then as you understand that consciousness, the heart chakra starts open. There's an expansion in the thoracic region of your shoulders, and that auric field becomes more pyramidal. And you become more conscious of the you that sent you, and the I am you that's recognizing that you. You have the Trinity within you. You always have. You've always had the Divine Mother's frequency in there for a reason, because this planet was a place of difference than any other place. And the place of difference was to remain in perfection, actually. And it went out of perfection, and you're going back into the perfection process. That's why the winds are increasing. That's why your poles are shifting, because of the effect of the other systems coming into your consciousness now. You're more than just your Earth here. You have other planets running around. You have other consciousness. You're aware of extraterrestrials. The photographs are coming out. All of these things. There has to be interaction. But the interaction is not a fearful base. Who's better than the other? It's an equality. One needs the other for reasons. But the purposes can be convoluted. And it's what's happening now. Because it's not the recognition of the dignity within all things. There's this argument that I'm better than you, and this is not, and that thing there. Air is for everyone. Air is breathed by every living thing. Within the water there are beings that have this system of taking the oxygen out of the water. Well, you're going to learn to understand the importance of just the space you're in and the air that's around you. Because what you're breathing in is the God force that's everywhere, all over the planet at the same time. Doesn't go anywhere. It's there. And then when you understand that in the breath, and the body starts understanding it, and you get your chills or your goosebumps, as you say, you know you've done something right. That's an inner acknowledgement that's coming. That's a and how did that happen? Because the thought was in the right place as you did your breath. And breath should be taken as thankfulness. Because if you didn't have it, you'd have difficulty in the understanding of your next life, what you call the reincarnation movement. You're aware of babies coming out of the womb. Well, you have a baby within you, and it's coming out of the womb. Now, it'll either come out of the womb in the as a physical form now, as you go into light form and you become lighter and lighter in that thing, or you'll come out of the womb in another incarnation. So you're growing up within yourself, and what is really occurring is you're going to find out that you're a flower. And when you find out that you're a flower, you'll understand what the breeze is, and how the breeze takes the seed of you and deposits it somewhere else. The seed of you beings on your planet are really your thoughts. Those are your seeds. They're called seed thoughts. Everyone has them. And you link them to the word called desire and wants. But it's much more than that. It's a process of understanding the continuity of consciousness, the ability of your left foot to move, the ability of your right foot to move, the ability of the muscles to move the bones, because the bones can't move without muscle and sinew. They can't. But the bones were called out of the dirt by Ezekiel, and you were taught how to do that. But you forgot. So you had to have woman to do the building of the bones for you. And that's why the woman should be respected in a manner that's not understood by the male condition. You have no process yet to develop your own bones from your spiritual vision talking to the earth. You need a woman. That is the rule, and that's what you're doing. Now the acknowledgement and the sacredness and the sanctity of women has to come forth, but you're going about it in the wrong way. There has to be dignity applied to all things on both sides of this little equation. And until you understand that dignity thing, you're going to have great difficulty, and the wars are increasing because of it. You have this idea that the consciousness of your country, what you call in your world, is better than the consciousness within another country. Yet it is all life, and the boundaries were created for consternation and separation. There really should be no boundaries. There should be one world. There should be one language, but you're not capable of that yet, because many languages now have very different meanings, and the words and the definitions don't come across within the culture itself. The culture is not familiar with that concept. So you still have to have the separation right now until the cultures understand each other. And then you have to understand the next confusing aspect is who developed that culture and sent it down to you and gave you a place to play within it. You have to gather that kind of information. And when you do, you'll find out that the world was yours freely to walk around in as you wanted. And the interference came from the pretty much the argument of the force of self is not the way you wanted it. It wasn't the way you expected it. It's called false expectations. False expectations. It's like when you don't manifest, when you said you manifest, and you say to some, I'm praying and nothing's happening. Well, pray harder. Focus harder. Understand the self harder. You've got to pretty much get your stomach and your solar plexus in union. Many beings, and you can see this in your world, have very large stomachs. That's processing your own self stuff. That's them. It's not wanting to move further up. It's a languid situation. And the movement up requires movement, but not in the way of body physical movement. It requires movement within the consciousness of as you bring your meditation forces up. One of the difficult processes in understanding spiritual development is this word meditation. You are in a meditation now, continually. You need to connect with the one that's doing the meditating, and you're involved with it. You're involved with a sitting being, I'm going to call it a Buddha one, in you that's meditating. Yet the interaction with that one has not been